Welcome to Refirement Life, the podcast for anyone navigating life transitions or planning to make life transitions to ensure your next years are your best years. Listen in for insightful, generous, and sometimes humorous conversation. It's time to get fired up with Christine Zmuda and Muge Wood, your hosts for this latest episode of Refirement Life.
And welcome to Refirement Life. Today I have an amazing guest, Soreya James, and Soreya has a fantastically interesting background. Today we're going to talk about using your body as tech, and what that means is really being in tune with your surroundings, how to be very comfortable in your own skin, and also know some of those warning signs when you may need to apply a little tune-up. But about Soreya, her background is as follows. She is a dynamic trainer, facilitator, and transformational leader with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering powerful learning experiences for groups and individuals worldwide. She specializes in leadership training, group facilitation, curriculum design, and transformational program delivery across corporations, retreats, and community settings. I think what's really fascinating about Soreya is some of the background that she has, which makes these engagements really eye-opening and quite different than, I would say, your typical corporate training. I've been through a lot of those. In terms of her background, she incorporates ancient wisdom traditions with evidence-based practices, drawing from extensive training and facilitation, neuro-linguistic programming, master coaching, yoga therapy, breath work, meditation, and positive psychology. So with all that, I mean, you get a very different experience for deep learning, emotional resilience, and personal evolution. So we want to tap into some of this with you today, Soreya. Welcome to Refirement Life.
Thanks, Christine. Wow, that sounds amazing. I was like, wow, that sounds really great.
Yeah, you've accomplished so much in your 20 years and still doing so. So, well, let's open it up. So we had talked about the theme being listening to your body as tech. Can you give our listeners a little bit of flavor of what that means to you and kind of set the stage for what we'll talk about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with referring to what I just experienced and what is my daily practice. And that is when I get on my yoga mat, or, it doesn't have to be that. It can be walking in nature. It can be climbing a mountain. It can be in the gym. As soon as you start to fire up the body, I love that this is called refirement, when you fire up the body through movement, and through moving energy with your breath. So, breath is simply life force that moves through the system of the human psyche. And when you bring those two things into rhythm, so moving the body, bringing breath onto the body, and then if you bring sound current, like a vibrational sound, just like every word that we're speaking right now is a vibration, and that vibration changes, the frequency changes from our words, from the tone, from the volume. When we bring those three things into unison, we create a shift in the body. And we all know now, because science has proven it, that we are energy, that we are actually not this matter. So when we're talking about the body being technology, we are like a human battery. So just like it's like a Tesla, for example. So we have to put water into the battery. We have to put oil into, it's like a vehicle. That's probably a better way to put it. We have to put oil into the vehicle. We have to put water into the vehicle. But we also need to plug it into the source. And the source is all around us. So we have to breathe that energy in. We have to connect into nature. We have to connect into something that supports this human vehicle to function optimally. So for me, it's about creating a specific time every day to focus, to devote myself to developing and organizing and generating the energy inside of me so that I can function optimally in the world. So the brain, the body, all of the organs, all of the systems, the bones, the bone marrow, the structure of this entire body and everything that makes up this is no different to a car, except way more sophisticated, obviously. It's very similar to a computer, maybe not the one that we're on now, but a giant mainframe, but still way more sophisticated.
Yeah.
So when we recognize that we are the most sophisticated machinery on the planet, like there's no robot that's ever going to be made that's more sophisticated than the human being, because a robot can't create a child. It can't grow that child. It can't feed that child.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. Then it's kind of like this new awareness of, oh, I am technology. So how do I actually maintain this?
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you take advantage of this gift called life, right?
Yes,
every second.
Exactly. And what are you going to feed it, and how are you going to talk to it, and how are you going to move it in life, and what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Yeah.
So that is a great explanation, and hopefully people are starting to connect. I would imagine connect with it. There's just so much data out there about how we're feeling people before we're thinking, and then when we're thinking people, you're absorbing 420 points of data when you meet each person. To your point of being very sophisticated, and when you have all this data coming at you, as well as the data you're processing, how do you use your mind to be very aware in the moment? And I guess to your point of the analogy of a car, like what gear should we be putting ourselves in at different points of the day?
Yeah. Well, everything, if you think about everything as frequency, this human being is, and this is a sophisticated language, but it's actually really simple as well, because this human being is vibrating at a very specific frequency, and it depends on what they put into their body, how much sleep they have, where they are in the cycle, where they live, what they do for work. Like everybody is sort of a vibrational being moving around in this huge cosmos, and different frequencies are attracted to other frequencies. And we're also, if you think about the mind like a radio, a stream of radio stations, radio frequencies, you can wake up feeling negative, or the subconscious mind is on fire, and you're thinking a certain way, and you're kind of almost vibrating on a low AM radio frequency. And you can choose to have a conversation with yourself, shift your awareness, do a movement, create something different in your life, not put toxicity into the system, and that creates a new frequency. So when two people come together in this similar kind of frequent vibration, they're going to fire off each other, they're going to spark each other, and this is the human nature. It's organizations, it's relationship meeting, it's that Tinder swipe, if you like. And there was another part to your question I don't think I answered, because as I said, I go off on these tangents.
No, I think it's fine. I think it's just understanding the moderation.
Yes.
So you've introduced this concept of frequency, and I think we've all probably seen and experienced this, even in a like a meeting session, right? You see someone who walks in and they have big energy, and then the whole room kind of changes. And then there's, as you mentioned, there's instant connections made, and then there's others that maybe their vibration goes lower because it's like, whoa, this is a whole nother dynamic that they're either ready for or not.
Yeah, and the opposite is also true. Is when somebody walks into a room and they're not in a great mood, or they've had an argument with someone, you can literally feel it. You know that saying, you can cut the air with a knife.
Yes.
And so, back to your question too around the mind and the body. If we are meeting somebody's mind, we're having an intellectual conversation, we're having an intellectual experience. But that when you hug somebody, when you hold somebody's hand, when you're looking into somebody's eyes, you're having a full, visceral, embodied experience. And we could even when you're making love with someone, or when you're dancing with someone, like the magnetic field of those two bodies are coming together, and some bodies are repelled by each other. So this is literally the magnet, or the magnetism, or the magnitude of where people are operating in their life. I love that you've called magnet labs, So we're not always going to vibrate or connect or resonate with everyone. I love everyone, people say, but if we loved everyone, we'd have a lot of friends. We wouldn't get a lot done. So
yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So tell us sort of how you got on this journey. I mean, was there a moment in your own life where your body kind of recognized different actions before your mind did, or was it vice versa? Like, how did you get on this path of teaching and living in this way?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot, and it always starts with dancing. So I was a dancer when I was a child, like really young, and so I've always been in my body. I was a dancer, I was a singer, I was an actor or actress. So my body always worked before my mind, even as a child. And so naturally, when I moved into my teen years and my early 20s, I was drawn to the stage. I was drawn to singing, to to anything that would allow my body to be the expression of itself. So once again, naturally, I was drawn to transformational work. I was 19 when I did my first personal development, like really huge body of work, like for me to sort of walk into this room of 120 people. And it was very cathartic back then. It was, smashing mattresses and yelling and screaming and, really sort of getting all of the energy moving in the room, kind of Tony Robbins style, but a little bit less intense. And then I was drawn to Tony Robbins' work. And I remember being in Sydney in an auditorium of 3,500 people, this is 27 years ago, and feeling that state change in my body and just going, wow, this is powerful stuff. And then walking across hot coals through incantation and realizing how incredible this body actually is. And I've just been on the path since then. It's been like, you know what? I know what this body can do. Like, I've climbed mountains, and I've been in crazy competitions where I've done things that the human body really, on a daily basis can't do. Like, I've taken myself through a human experimentation almost to death and come back again. And it's like, this body is so incredible. So I guess it started when I was young, but really that turning point was when I was 19, and I felt something, and then it kind of continued showing up for me through my whole life. And to the yoga this morning.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. And how much of those experiences, when you reflect back, how much of it is mind focused? I mean, when you see people run marathons, and some people aren't even in great physical shape, they still make it across that finish line. And I'm always like, they're just mentally tough. Yeah. But it seems for you, it's really a body, almost body first and mind follows, or what is that fair?
It is. And the body and mind are one organism. They're not separate. But a lot of people lead with their mind. I mean, look at all the stimulation we've got in life at the moment. Like, we're just, we're sitting here and we've got so much coming in, feeding the mind. For me, I feel like as long as I can remember, I have bypassed my mind. So if I come into a place of confusion or irritation or, misunderstanding, I know it's my mind. Whereas I can breathe through, or, lack of clarity or indecision, I know it's my mind. So I learned at a very young age and really embody this now, that I listen through my breath. So if I get stuck on something, I simply breathe a few times into my belly. At the navel point, we've got 72,000 nerve endings. So as we inhale and exhale, these nerve endings are, sort of expanding and lengthening. And so our decisions are made from a calm and centered place. And that gut-brain connection kicks in. And then the pituitary pineal gland starts to come on fire. These are our master glands, obviously, and we're working through intuition. And I trust that implicitly. Like, there's that, I never question that anymore. But sometimes it takes me a little while to, just settle into my body and go, is this true for me? It's not so much is this right or wrong or good or bad. Is this true for me? And if it's not, I simply say no. And my inner GPS is such an incredible guide for me in my life, and has been for a long, long, long time. So it makes life easy, because we're not making mistakes. We're not going down pathways that are going to be detrimental to us, and it just makes life really easeful and quite beautiful when we are listening to the body, because the body knows. There's so many books now. The Body Knows the Score is probably one of the greatest books on the earth for me, and there's so many people talking about it now. So
it's very cool.
But there's not enough people listening, like truly listening to their bodies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you just said, things that sort of popped into my mind is when you step away from problems, and to your point, like when you just let the body do its thing, it seems, you get additional ideas when you're out walking. When your mind is kind of quiet, all of a sudden the ideas come. In the shower, maybe dreaming, you wake up and the problem is solved because you've kind of stepped away from it for a moment at least, and let sort of the natural capabilities of the body take over.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people that are in pain.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that are in pain and suffering, whether it's mental instabilities, insecurities, or nervous system, autoimmune, or whatever. And when I'm listening to my body, like really deeply, I can feel the internal mechanism. I can feel, like the other day I had this, what someone would call a pain or a pressure, and I stop and I go, oh, I wonder what that is. That's an interesting sensation. And I'm tuning into this pressure, and someone could go, what is that, and go into fear. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if that's one of my neural pathways unhooking, or my brain rewiring itself. That's so fascinating. And because I'm bringing full awareness to it, it dissolves. But if I'm bringing fear to it, it kind of expands, and it's the same with any pain or discomfort in our body. When we really fine tune our awareness into it and then bring life force into that point, like concentrated life force. So what's that telling me? Oh, wow, I've got a little bit of a funny hit going on. What's that telling me? Well, you worked out pretty hard yesterday. Are you pushing yourself? Or just listening to I'm tired. When the body's exhausted and you've got zero energy left, you need to plug your battery in and let it rest overnight, let it charge. It's, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. So we know there's so much coming at us, as you mentioned, distractions, social media, terrible things to worry about in the world. Why do you think so many of us have become disconnected from the intelligence and those signs that our body is giving us?
Well, how long has the web been in our lives? Like, when did that first come out?
Early 90s was more commercial. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I see it in two ways, Christine. It's like we're more disconnected and we're more connected, in a sense that I would probably never have met you had we not had this technology, right? So there's connection happening through these beautiful online portals and platforms. But what I'm seeing also, and what we are seeing, is that with the more people are coming into this world, and the gaming world is huge, and all the stimulation. I mean, oh gosh, I won't even go to some of the addictions that this has created for our children and for humanity. But the more that we come into this and we sit on this thing, the more disconnected we are with our own internal nature, with our own body. So technology in one way is really supporting us to connect, and in other ways it's not. It's like there's just so much stimulation, there's so much to feed ourselves on. It's like we're hungry, people getting more and more hungry for information. And this is information, whereas this in our body is wanting transformation. And so we're only feeding the mind through this technology. And I don't, it's like, is this, my parents always go, you're a bit of a conspiracy theorist when you say like this, but, I have to ask myself the question, like, is what we've got coming at us through that, through this form, was it all kind of structured from the beginning, like to disconnect humans from their own sense of self, from their intuition, from nature? I don't know, that question, the jury's still out for me on that. But
Yeah.
The important part is that having equal balance. I spend hours on my computer every day because I'm a businesswoman. But equally, I spend hours in nature, walking the beach, in the ocean, and walking through the forests. And I feel like that's probably the most important thing, is just to have that awareness of nature.
Right.
Like I woke up the other morning and like I live in the most beautiful sort of natural environment. And I thought, gosh, imagine waking up in the middle of New York City. Like there'd be excitement to that, but where do you go other than Central Park to receive that experience of stillness, of silence, of pure nature?
Yeah.
And
even
blessing.
Central Park can get pretty noisy.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I only went to New York once when I was very, very young, and I was like, whoa. Sensory overload. And
Totally.
you're in that magnetic field all the time, so
Right.
be crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, you mentioned technology. It seems like everything in moderation, but also looking across your life and looking across how you spend your time. Are you doing enough for yourself, to your point about getting into nature, even just turning inward and thinking, right? I mean, a lot of people don't do that. We see fewer and fewer people reading books. Attention spans are, milliseconds, not minutes. And
especially the next generation, like, you and I have grown up with the books and with, probably playing in the backyard, or playing with your neighbor's children. And it's like my son, who's 21, he's playing with people online, like gaming online, and he has a few select friends, but his whole world since he was born, well, not since he was born, but, has been learning about technology.
Right.
Like in the schools, they don't use pen and paper anymore. They use computers.
Yes.
And they don't write letters. They use phones,
Right.
They don't even text anymore. It's all voice messaging, and it's
it's a whole set of rules, and interesting. It's an interesting way to be raised, for sure. So if we think about, when you can tune into your body, there's some signs that your body will give you, guidance between intuition and truth, fear, and other things. How do you sort of, if people are new to this practice of just slowing down, is there any advice that you can give to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually quite simple. So fear, anxiety, stress, that will show up as a contraction or a heaviness in the body. And we all know what that feels like. Your body literally closes in on itself or contracts, or you feel, and if you are moving in a direction or making a decision from intuition or from truth, your true nature, this feels true for me, your body will feel light and expansive. And it's that simple. So you can turn towards something that's like, you'll, come towards a person and your body will either feel, it's so great to see you, this is, and a hug, or you'll be like, oof,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get a good sense about this person, this situation, this, you can look at it like applying for a job. And you know whether that job is going to fulfill you, lighten you, expand you, and you make the decision, and then 3 months in or 3 weeks in, you're like, oh, or a relation, whatever the situation might be. So heavy, light, contracting, expanding. Listen to that. And then the mind might kick in and justify and defend and try and figure it out. And it's like, take a breath. Is there lightness? Is there expansive? Is there openness? Is my chest opening? Or is there contraction heavy? It's that simple.
Wow.
Yeah.
This will be fun to try over the next week.
Yeah. The thing is, people don't stop to listen long enough. People are making such impulsive decisions and impulsive buying. I mean, look at everything that we've been, often buy now, get the free set of steak knives, and it's like everything is like so it's like, just stop, take a moment, take a breath. Oh yeah, I can feel that. Yeah.
That's nice. So our listeners could tune into those feelings of expansiveness or contraction. And I guess another place to visit is like when you're really out of alignment with yourself, you're gonna feel probably that contraction, but is there other things that you feel? Friction obviously is probably something, but any advice in dealing with kind of those bigger situations, right? The real challenging life situations that stay with you. It's just not a moment in time, but it's something you're sitting with.
Yeah, and it's really more of an extension of, those embodiment expressions. So you'll feel heavier and contracted for longer periods of time. And then what happens in the body is that can start to form in dis-ease. It can start to form in illness and, nervous tendencies. It can start to form in the mind. If we think about a heavy mind, depression, and if we go down through the layers, it can form into manic. It can form into, trauma responses. It forms into PTSD. Like it all starts kind of backing up on top of each other, forming more and more layers, or what we call in yogic psychology loops. So it's like etching in these loops and these patterns into the subconscious mind. And that's why, the work that I'm doing is actually releasing the subconscious mind, like emptying our rubbish bin every day. I empty my rubbish bin every day so that there's clarity. So the opposite of that is that there's uncertainty, there is indecision and real heaviness through the whole tech of the body, and forming in lethargy, autoimmune diseases, all of the, if you think about what's the one, it's gone from my mind at the moment, but it'll come back to me in time. But I see people with very little vitality in their bodies, walking around weight gain and addictions and really just disturbing habits and grey in the face and no color and no life force, and you can see that specific technology, body technology, has turned in on itself and layered up against itself, whether it be the mind or the body. And I just want to kind of grab that person and say, do you know that you can do something and it's free? That's the beauty of moving your body, breathing and making sound. It's free. So.
Well, and speaking of, wanting to help people, how do you help people rebuild the trust with their bodies? I understand that usually takes like 30 days to make a habit, make a change. I don't know if you subscribe to that or if there's, things that you would encourage people to do just to get started.
Yeah, 21 days I heard. And to change a neural pathway loop, it can take a period of time because it depends on how long it's been kind of etched in, right? Like if you've had a habit of doing something your entire life, that's going to take some time to unhook. But if you just started something that, oh God, that's not working for me, then we concentrate the life force into that area. So to answer your question, if there's a habit, a pattern, a destructive behavior, an addiction, those are the 4 layers. We start with this and then it moves down deeper into the psyche. I work with a very precise technology. So, it's a 35,000-year-old ancient technology that the yogis have worked with forever. And, when you go there and you look at them, it's like they've got something right, and somewhere in the West, we kind of messed it up a little bit. So I'm trained in this technology and I've worked with this technology for many, many years. And it's a very precise technology. So if somebody comes to me with something specific, it's like they're going to a doctor and they're giving the symptoms. And then I work with, the doctor places into the computer the symptoms and it spits out an antibiotic or a drug for them, a prescription. I worked with the prescribed technology of breath, sound, and movement, which does the same thing, only it doesn't have the side effects because we're not putting a chemical substance into the body, but we are changing the brain and body chemistry through the technology that we're working with. So, if somebody's got migraines, for example, we will go in and work very precisely into that neural pathway, into the cell, at the very core of where those migraines started. And that opens up the cell receptor. That stored emotion or stored trauma releases from those cells or that cluster of cells, if it's migraine, and it unhooks it, it releases. So that can happen as quick as 1 session, if we're really concentrating that life force, or if we're working with, something that has been with someone for a long period of time, a deep illness or a mental neuroses, then that can take some time. But the process is the same. We sit down, we go still, we listen to the body. I guide them into the body, into the cellular structure, and through the neural pathways, and we find the stored, pain, suffering, memory, whatever it is, and we work with that. We work with that. And it's just miraculous what happens. Like I've been left very humbled by this work.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a very deeply guided meditation, right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because we often think as meditation as stillness, whereas I'm actually inviting their body to move, to remove the obstructions or the stagnation that sits in the spinal channel or sits in a shoulder or sits in a hip. So so I'm listening and I'm watching their own technology and then using the technology to move their body to begin breathing, and there's over 1,000 different breath practices that we work with. It's very precision technology into those areas, really concentrating their life force into that very specific area, even if it's like arthritis in a knuckle, and then working with the sound technology as well to change brain chemistry through the meridian points of the palate of the mouth. So yeah, there's a lot to it. Like we could spend another hour on this.
Yeah. So maybe a better way to say it. I don't want our listeners to get focused on that word technology because it means different things to people, especially like these days. But maybe it's like guided holistic practice with.
Yeah. And it's very different for every person. It's not the same for any one person that we work with. So yeah, I guess you could call it a guided meditation, a guided moving meditation, a somatic embodied practice. There's many words that you can put on it that that describe it. Yeah.
But super powerful from what you've said. Do you have a story or an anecdote about something you've experienced to give people even a clearer idea of what happens?
Yeah, I've got many. Probably the best story to tell is, when I'm working with an individual client or in a group, because I've been teaching, really large groups for many, many years, there's a moment that you actually witness as the practitioner or, even in myself when I'm working with something, that there's a visceral shift. And so, I often work with clients and I'm watching them, and, they have their eyes closed and they're moving their body and they're working with their breath, and then something shifts and you see it, like the body jolts. It's as if, you've plugged something in and something's been removed or shifted, like in a chiropractic shift. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or physio or what have you. And the body jolts, and then the emotional body opens up and tears come, or laughter comes, or, like a shaking or shivering comes. And when you have that in a group setting, with 100 or 300 people, and you watch the consciousness of that group, the whole group shifts at the same time, and you can feel it, you can see it, and it's a very palpable experience. Same with, when I'm working with someone, like I've worked with a lot of people with cancer and illness, and you see that moment where they move out of the fear, the anxiety, everything that they've been told on the outside world, and they go inwards, and all of a sudden their body gives them the message, the message of hope, the message of freedom, the message of, peace, the message of surrender. And it becomes very apparent, on their face. The lines start to soften, the tears flow, the heart opens, the smile comes. So, every session there's always something.
Wow, that must be something to see and experience for
So
sure.
beautiful. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it always often brings me to tears too.
Right. And as you said, the body's energy. So when they're tapped in and tuned in, it can't help but display.
Exactly.
It's very cool.
Miracles happen.
Oh yeah. I'm a huge believer in miracles.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been just incredible, what we witness through this.
That's amazing. Wow. Okay. Well, so for people who want to find out more about you and connect with your work directly, what's the best way for them to do that, Soreya?
Yeah. So, just recently I've decided that, rather than going through social media and websites and things, just come and have a direct conversation with me. Like, this is so much more beautiful and real. And so just directly through my email, soreyajames@gmail.com, or on WhatsApp, +64 021 340 123. And let's have a conversation. If anybody's curious or wanting to know more, it's very specific. It's, my website or my social media is not going to give you the answers that you may have if you're curious about what I do. It's about having this one-on-one and really feeling each other and how I can support, or what you're curious about. And, I offer a free consultation, so there's no obligation, just human to human, heart to heart.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I will put your email in our show notes so people have it, and spell Soreya perfectly well, and your WhatsApp number as well. It's been such a pleasure to have you, and keep doing the great work. We need, more people, who light up the world the way you do. You can see it on your face as you talk about this. So
yeah, it excites me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Christine. Really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Okay, so until next time, everyone, take care. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. Our hope is to spark a little joy, inspire, and educate our listeners in ways to live an even more meaningful life. If you have reactions to share from what you've heard, please visit our website, refirement.life, to leave a voice message. You may even be featured in a future episode. To keep in touch, subscribe to our podcast, Refirement Life, using the podcast player of your choice. Always remember, you are never too old to set a new goal or to dream a new dream. Thanks again for joining us on this episode. Until next time.